afternoon, greetings. Greetings, welcome to the New Ulm Forum. My name is Ruth Ann Webster. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. And the League of Women Voters is a nonprofit, nonpartisan political group, and we're interested in educating citizens about government and defending democracy. And this is not so much about democracy, but it's about a government program. The City of New Ulm has had for quite a number of years a deer control program. And so the topic is the City of New Ulm's deer control program. And my guest today is Jeff Hohensee, and I'll let him in. He's a longtime employee of the City of New Ulm. I'll let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Ruth Ann. Again, my name is Jeff Hohensee. I'm a detective with the police department. I have been with the City of New Ulm since 1990, so I am a 32-year veteran of our police force, and I have been with the city control or the city deer control program for 31 years. Howard Zins and myself started it back in 1992, so it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and when we talked, you said you've got somebody else right now who's helping with the program, right?
Correct. Dusty Fleck, he's a corporal in our police department. Mm-hmm. This is actually my last year of doing this. I am going to retire after this, and Dusty is going to take over. So Dusty will be the program leader.
Okay, good. Now, just a little bit of an overview. This is a deer control program, but it's a way of removing deer.
Correct.
This is a hunt. This is a deer hunt, right? Why don't you talk about that?
This is a program to reduce deer. So our main goal here is to reduce deer in problem areas around the City of New Ulm. Those problem areas have been designated as, the areas along Garden Street and Payne Street, Summit, going all the way down. There's obviously a stretch of woods that's along the hillside in New Ulm, and it encompasses that. Our city deer hunt encompasses, we've had some great program support over the years. One of them being Shell's Brewery. They were great to work with, and they still are. They've actually opted out 2 years ago, and that's simply because they're going through some changes there, and they're like putting in some bike paths and things down there. So they just said, you know what, Jeff, for right now, can we opt out? I was like, perfect. Thank you for the support over the years. Ted and Jody have been great. Then another one is the Cottonwood Land Company, who owns the property at the New Ulm Country Club. They've been really awesome to work with, and then along with the Flanders State Park. And our stands actually start on the south end of town below Gisselson Law Office. The DNR owns some land there. Then we go over and encompass a number of parks, and then we skip Shells. We go to the Cottonwood Land Company through the Country Club into into the New Ulm Country Club, then into Flanders State Park. Then we go down to like 20th South where the bike path is and kind of follow the river all the way up to the KC Road.
Okay. Now, this started, you talked about deer in problem areas. Now, maybe it's obvious to somebody who tries to grow hosta, but in addition to, what are the problems with having too many deer, with having a deer herd that is too large for the space?
Well, it comes down to carrying capacity, and that is that there's more deer than the land is available to sustain. And two things really are key about deer yarding up in the city, and that one of those is the crop removal time, and the second is snowfall. All right. So if the crops are late and there's not a lot of snowfall, we don't get the deer in town like, there's the resident deer. But what really happens is when the crops are off and then we have a large amount of snow, everything just funnels to the food. And unfortunately, the birds and the bird feeders and the shrubs and everything that people have, that's the food that they'll come to.
Well, and it's not safe for the deer to be in the city, really.
Correct. One of the reasons that we started this was simply because of the number of car deer crashes that we were having. And we have reduced those by by 3/4 of what we used to have. So the program actually does work.
Well, and it's more than just people's roses and plants. It's
Absolutely.
good for the animals as well as for the people that live in the
Correct.
city. So, exactly, you talked a little bit about the DNR. Was it the DNR that approached the city, or the city the DNR, or was
We
it?
approached the DNR and said, listen, we have a deer problem in the city. And that's what it is. It's a city problem. Because the DNR doesn't have a problem with the deer, especially in Flanders State Park. They can sustain that down there. And they're not doing damage, and they're not causing, car deer accidents in the park. It's a problem because of the fact that, the city and the park are so close together. And the DNR's been really good to work with. Craig Beckman right now is in charge of the parks at the Minnesota DNR. And again, I couldn't ask for a better relationship with a gentleman like that. He's very professional. He's very pro, city. He's very pro program. And, he and his staff, Maureen down at the state park, they've been just great to work with.
Okay, so tell us how the program works. I mean, obviously, you are inviting the public in to participate in this deer control program, a deer hunt in the city. Why don't you talk about how that works?
Well, the first thing that we have is we have a proficiency test. And we've had this proficiency test since the onslaught of this. And I wouldn't be a part of the program if we didn't. I can't judge a hunter, but I can judge their score on a proficiency test. And that's what we do, is we take the top 56 hunters. There's 56 permits that are allowed. And to be in our hunt, you have to have a special permit, and we, the city, give that out. Now, the DNR grants us 56 permits. So then we are able to, pass out 56 permits, and we do that to the top 56 scores.
Tell me as a person who doesn't hunt, and just so that's clear, this is a bow and arrow hunt, right?
Correct.
Right.
A bow and arrow, and now it includes crossbows also.
Okay. But like I said, as a person who doesn't know about that, how could I become proficient or prove that I was proficient? What happens?
So what we do is we have them go to an elevated platform, and they shoot 15 arrows. And those arrows are at 3 different distances. They're at 18 yards, 20 yards, and 25 yards. And there's a scoring mechanism that's attached to it. They're able to go up and view the target beforehand. It's fair for everyone. They shoot their 5 arrows, then it's scored by myself or Dusty. Then they shoot their next 5 arrows, and again their third 5 arrows, and they're given a final score. And then once all the scores are compiled, then we call them back and we take the top 20 or the top 58 scores, and then what they'll do is make an appointment to meet with Dusty or myself, and then we take them to one of 28 stands that we have throughout the city. And they're restricted to that stand for that year with a partner.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, who is eligible to take this proficiency test?
Anybody 18 years and older.
Okay. So not limited to people that live in the city?
No.
Okay. And how do you sign up to take the proficiency test? Is there a fee? Where do you get that information?
So right now, our proficiency test is open. Our sign up is open, and that will close usually the first week of September.
Okay. Yeah, so right now today is August 18th.
Correct.
And so the people that might be interested
Can go to the city website.
There we go. That's right. That's
City
what I
website
thought.
has all the information on it. Lisa Grothwell is the program administrator from City Hall, and over 33 years, or 32 years, I couldn't have done this program without Lisa's help. Thank you very much, Lisa. You are an angel. She takes, so
Okay.
if you are selected, there's a number of rules that we have. Rules like the only place you can have your bow uncased or your crossbow is at the tree. So if you're walking down a trail or walking down a road, it has to be in a case. The only time you can shoot is from that raised platform. Things like that. It's all about safety.
Okay.
And we've gone, obviously Dusty and I go out, we mark these 26 or 28 stands, and we make sure that a tree didn't blow down and now the walking has to be diverted or something along that line. One of the other partners that we had over the years was the hospital. We had some stands up by the hospital, And again, 2 years ago, the hospital made a walking track for their employees, and they blacktopped it, and it goes through that area. So we don't have that area anymore, but once again, it just shows an instance where the hospital was like, hey, yeah, we welcome you guys to come in, and they were very supportive and great to work with.
Now, you talk about the rules that the city has. Now, there's just generalized rules for hunting, right?
Correct.
There's a season, that's
Correct.
what other types of rules do people have?
So all bow hunters have to abide by all state laws, and then we have additional laws, an example is the state law is no baiting, all right? So you can't put bait down, you can't take a pile of corn and dump it by your stand to attract animals. That's against the state law. Now, have we had people do that?
Oh,
Yes, we
dear.
have. And what happens then? We get the game warden involved. And
Okay.
people have been cited, and in our hunt, but a lot of people have been cited from baiting also.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been, one person over 33 years or 32 years that did it, and they got caught, and I turned them into the warden, and the warden and I did an investigation, and they received a ticket for it.
And there's some, you and I talked earlier.
Correct.
So one of the things that I was interested in is how you keep track of people. Now, there's an actual season, right?
Correct.
There's an actual season, it starts sometime.
So the real bow season starts September 15th.
Okay,
Our city hunt, we give it 30 days. And that's because a lot of the parks and a lot of the state parks are really high use in September. So we wait until October 15th to start ours. So we go out, and then they're good to go until the last day of the regular archery season, which is the 31st of December.
okay, so you've got in addition to having your own rules, you've got really a different schedule than
Correct.
the regular hunt. Now, and like I said, tell people how you keep track of people.
Okay, so what we've done is we have a login and log out sheet. So every time a hunter wants to hunt in the city of New Ulm, they would have to stop at the law enforcement center. We're open 24 hours a day. And they come down below. There's the sign up book is down there. So they'll put the date, October 15th, I'm in stand number 6. I get here at 6 a.m. I'm done at 9 a.m. I saw 2 does, 1 buck, and 1 fawn. I didn't shoot a deer. And if they do shoot a deer, they log it in there, shot adult doe, and that's kind of where the information over the years has been kept. Now, we, this year, are trying to go to an electronic version of that. And we've got some work to do, to work some of the kinks out, but that's our goal, is this year to go electronic.
So people can get some sort of, like going to the gym,
Yes.
swipe something in.
You get
see
an
if it
app,
works.
you just go on an app on your phone, and then you can
Oh, I
log
see.
in and out, basically
Okay.
like that.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's literally, they don't have to show up now at the police department and do that, but at the same time, Dusty and I can look on there. So I've had it where wives have said, my husband's not home, he went deer hunting, is he there? What's going on? Is he hurt? And then you'll look, and I can look on there and say, he checked in at 3 this afternoon, but at 5:30 he checked out. So he's not here. So you might want to
Oh, dear.
check someplace else. But it's a safety thing, and it
Oh,
has been a
absolutely.
safety thing.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about this partners thing. Would you explain that? Apparently, there's more people than stands, right?
Correct. So we only have 28 stands, and there's 56 people, so we just double up. And the participants can pick their own partner as long as they both qualify. And if they don't have a partner, then Lisa will just assign them. So what happens though is the number of stands that are out there, that's also a random draw. So the same person who had stand number 12 last year doesn't necessarily get it this year. Now, the only exception I have to that is I have some handicapped people that, shoot with a crossbow, and just because of walking restrictions and such, there's about 3 stands that I have just for those people. So, but with the exception of that, then the day that you are going to be taken out, Lisa reaches in and says, this person and this person come up, there's a small fee, they got to pay like $30. Once they pay the $30, Lisa will pull it in front of them, and then she emails that to me, and that's the stand location that we take them out to.
Now, another thing that I'm really not familiar with is a crossbow. Would you explain what a crossbow is and why that would be used by someone?
Okay. So there's a regular bow, and that's either a compound or a long bow, okay? And a compound just means that as you pull it back, there's cams there, and they reduce the amount of weight that you're able to hold. So if I'm pulling a 60-pound bow back, now it'll go all the way down to where I'm only holding 15 to 20 pounds at the end of it. And that's because of the cam system that it has on it. A long bow is you pull it straight back, and it's 60 pounds all the way. A crossbow is something that up until this year you had to be 65 years old or have a permit for. And the legislature just now has said that that's wrong, and anybody can have a crossbow in the state of Minnesota. So now it's a bow or a crossbow that they can shoot in the city of New Ulm.
And what is a
A
crossbow?
crossbow is a lot like a gun, but you crank it up, and then there's absolutely no tension, and you can sit this down and use it, and they have scopes on them, and then they can shoot a bolt. And a bolt is about half the size of an arrow.
And you said you had some people who had some disabilities. Is that something that someone with disabilities would need, or?
Correct.
Okay.
A crossbow, up until this year, you had to have a doctor's note or be 65 years old.
Okay.
But from now on, or I believe it was 60, not 65, I'm sorry. But now, anyone in the state who buys an archery license, the archery is good for both a bow and a crossbow.
I'm trying to anticipate the other types of problems that you might run into. Like I said, if somebody doesn't check in or check out, what happens then?
Then I come looking for them, and if they're not in their tree or below their tree, I tell them, you'll do this once, because the second time I come out, you'll be removed from the hunt.
Okay.
But yeah, that's happened where we've gone out and looked at people, and we've had people fall. They're elevated stands, and we've had some falls over the years. The steps were icy or whatever, and they've called. Really, I can't babysit 56 people. So there has to be, we do check on it, but the other hunters regulate it also. And if somebody's doing something that's not right, believe me, I'll hear about it.
Okay, okay. And now, when I was on city council, we talked about something that I had to learn about, and so it's earn a buck.
Okay.
Can you explain that to people like me who didn't understand
Sure.
it?
So when you buy an archery tag in the state of Minnesota, you're only allowed one adult male deer. That's a buck. So that's all that you're allowed is one adult male. So for archery, you can shoot a doe, a fawn, or an adult buck. What happens with our hunt is the DNR gives us additional permits that they can purchase. So when you get the permit that says you're in this hunt and you've qualified, you can buy 2 additional permits, but they have to be antlerless.
Okay. In other
So-
words, female.
Female, or young deer without antlers. And our idea with that is we made it double earn a buck. So you have to shoot 2 antlerless deer before you can shoot an antler deer. Because those are the breeders. We didn't want this to be a hunt where people were trophy hunting or anything like that. Well, it doesn't do us any good if you're shooting the males. We want the females, which are the breeders, and that's what we've done. And I'll be very honest with you. I can look at our stats here. There's a number of years where we don't even shoot an antlered deer, so not one buck is shot throughout. Now there's been years that there's been 3 or 4, and I think the highest is 5. So it's really not a trophy hunt. It's more of a hunt. And a lot of people that are in our hunt, they use this to put a deer or 2 in the freezer. An extra deer that they have here. They've got a family of 5 to feed. 2 extra deer, that makes a big difference for them in their meat consumption. And I know a lot of people that rely solely on venison as their main meat source.
So, it's more than just a game.
Correct.
It's more than just a game. Now, this sort of interested me. When you and I talked earlier, you said on that very initial hunt, when you and Howard Zins were doing the hunting, you donated the venison. What? That was a long time ago, but you remember what happened?
So it was in 1991, and there was a problem, and the city council came to Howard and and they hired us to go out and shoot deer at night with high-power rifles in town. And we had a set number of deer. I want to say it was 25 deer. So Howard and I would go out each night in this time period, and we would shoot, 3 to 5 deer. And then we would bring them to a certain location in the city, and we would, get them ready for processing. And then we would do surveys on them. We'd take the jaw out, and the DNR would do that. They do a survey, for different things. So once that was done, then the game warden would pick the deer up, take them to a processing plant, and then the processing plant, when it was done, had donated the meat to a veterans organization.
Oh, okay, well, that's interesting.
Correct.
That's interesting. But that, we only did that for 1 year,
And the
right?
reason we did that for 1 year is because the city then sent a survey out to the landowners in this area that we talked about, that they designated as problem, and asked them, do you believe there's a problem? If there is a problem, how would you like it taken care of? There's like 5 or 6 questions, and overwhelmingly it was to have a city archery hunt.
Mm-hmm. And that's the direction it's taken ever
Correct.
since.
And our archery hunt over the years has been the model hunt for a number of different cities. I've traveled to Bemidji, Redwood Falls, different cities, and shown them Mankato, shown them our paperwork, given them, some of our statistics, how the way we do things, and really the DNR has actually used our hunt as a model in a number of their.
Can you tell us, did you learn some hard lessons early on? Maybe that's an unfair question,
Yeah.
but what did you learn by doing?
We were the initial, so we learned a lot of things over the years. And yes, I will say that the hunting organizations that I've been with have been very, very supportive. These deer hunters have been very supportive, and so have the landowners. I'll get landowners that call me up and say, come up to my house, look, they've destroyed, I put in $2,000 worth of shrubbery, and they've destroyed it. And, there are places where I can put someone, but a lot of the places I'm like, I can't have a hunter here because you have a neighbor here, you have a neighbor here, but what I'll do is I'll find the first adjoining property that isn't, and we'll try, the safest location. So right now we don't have anyone in our hunt along the bike path through the city of New Ulm. Those are places that we've looked at in the past, but if we do that, then I would sign it, that says hunt in progress and da-da-da. But really, to be honest with you, I don't look at us using those, the bike path area. And that's what kind of runs through town, from like 19th South all the way to Center Street there. And then, we do have some stands that are along the river. Again, I had mentioned like Minicon Park, and then up Jim Sheeman owns some land that he allows us to hunt between the concrete plant and Minnesota Valley Testing Lab. And then we go from there kind of all the way to the KC Road behind the berm. That's the compost site and areas along that side of the town.
What are the rules about, let's say a hunter does harvest a deer, what are the rules for how that carcass needs to be handled?
Well, first of all, what they have to do is they have to abide by the state law, which says they have to register the deer.
Okay.
So the first thing that they need to do, and they can do it right off of their phone now, but I will tell you is, if we shoot 60 deer in a year, at the end of the year, the game warden grabs our list and he looks to make sure every deer is registered.
Okay.
So, and I tell them that if you don't register a deer, you will get a fine. But to answer your question is, we don't allow them to leave the entrails once they're removed from the body in an area. So they bring a lot of times a garbage sack along or something, and then they'll carry those out. Or we have a designated area out by the compost site where they can do that if they don't have an area, if they're from out of town and don't have a place to do it. So that's kind of to answer your question there.
Now, you mentioned out of town, and you told me earlier that you have people coming from all over.
All over, yeah. I've had some interest. I've had people from Duluth. I've had people from Wisconsin. I've had groups from Red Wing, Winona, down all over. So, they usually have some type of nexus to New Ulm, or they'll come here for the Oktoberfest, and then they'll stay an extra day or something, or whatever, but we've had them that come in and camp down at Flandreau for a week at a time and just enjoy the park and enjoy the hunt and enjoy the city. So
So you've got some statistics there. Why don't you don't have to read them, but I know you've taken a look at them. What things people might be interested in the number of deer that are harvested?
Well, when we went to double Ernebuck, it used to be Ernebuck, and we went from Ernebuck to double Ernebuck, we would usually harvest for the program for like the first 10 years, it would be like 20 to 25 deer. When we went to double Ernebuck, we've averaged about 50 to 60 deer a year, and we're right around that 60 to 64 mark now, and our highest year was 84 deer.
Oh my
So if you take 84 deer and put them in the Turner Hall parking lot and they're standing up, that's a lot of deer.
Mm-hmm.
And our idea here isn't to eradicate deer, it's just to bring it to a controllable number. And I think if you talk to anyone, I currently live next to the state park. There's not a day that goes by that I don't have deer in my yard. And, but my neighbor has apple trees. So right now, this time of year, the deer are there eating the apples. And you know what? They don't mind them cleaning up the apples. But, the foods like the acorns and stuff like that, we have a lot of oak trees. So that's why we have, a number of deer that yard up in our city.
Okay. What do you see for the future of this program?
Well, I'm a little concerned when I say about the crossbows, and it's just, and I'm not concerned, I don't know, up until this year, we would have let's say we have 100 shooters that are taking the test, maybe 15 of them were crossbows. I don't know if that mark is going to jump to 30 or to 60, and it's not a big deal, it just takes a little bit longer to run them through the proficiency test. So my test, maybe we go from 3 days, what it is now, to 6 days. Mm-hmm. So, but who knows? Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe the people aren't going to shoot the crossbows. Mm-hmm. I guess time will tell.
Time will tell.
But I think it's a great program because really the cost, it costs them $10 to shoot and then $30 if they make it. And basically what that money does is it pays the salary that we get besides our police department stuff because we do a lot of time things in our off time. And then it also pays for the targets that we use. We have an insert that goes in there, and these are just new inserts every year. We use the same target.
And where is the proficiency test?
We have a park in town down by the sewage treatment plant that is designated as a place to shoot compound bows and crossbows. Mm-hmm. So
that's where it is.
That's where and that's the location of it. And you know what? Over the years, we used to use the Isaac Walton League, and they were great supporters to us. They'd let us go out there, but it's just we'd rather keep it in town. Mm-hmm. So,
great. Anything more from the statistics?
Like I said, Lisa breaks this down every year as to number of deer seen, the number of hours per deer, harvested, the total number of deer, that type of a thing, and the nice thing is we have this data, and it just shows that as we progress, that we're obviously making changes because our numbers are consistent or slowly going up.
Okay. And again, if someone is interested in this, all this information is on the city website.
City website.
City website, easy to find.
Yeah, and you just go on there and hit the Deer Control Program. It's got like I say, for $10, it is all it costs to try to qualify for the proficiency hunt. And again, that used to be free, but it's just gotten to the point where we're trying to recoup the money that we have into the targets because it's a city program.
Right. And $10.
And $10 isn't a lot.
To make a good try. This is, can you is it mostly young people or mostly?
We have everything. I mean, Donnie Balbach 4 years ago was hunting in our hunt. And I saw Donnie just had a birthday, and I think he's in his mid-90s, or low 90s. So when Donnie was 88 or 89, he was, he was a great guy. But yeah, we've had a lot of families. Donnie always hunted with his son Jerry, so we get a lot of that fathers, sons, father-daughter type of a thing. We have women that are involved with it. I mean, anybody can qualify. So yeah, it's a good program. I'll say that. Over the years, everyone knows kind of what the mark is, the score is to get in. So they go out and they practice. I mean, and they have to practice, and they know that. And they'll come in and they'll be in for 3 years in a row, and they'll come up and shoot, and they'll say, you know what, Jeff, I didn't practice this year. It's my own fault.
Mm-hmm, so, I didn't make it.
And again, that's what we want, is we want the people that are practicing and are proficient with that weapon that they're using.
And are interested.
Correct.
Anything else we ought to tell people?
I was gonna say,
We went through all my notes.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy that the city council, that they support this program, and I think they understand. Every year, I have, Les Schultz, Larry Mack, people like that will call me up and say, okay, what's going on with the deer hunt, and that. So, I mean, I know that the city council is engaged in it. Both of those gentlemen have come out and, had questions, and I've shown them different answers and things. So, I thank both of them for their support in it. So,
Well, and I think if the general public has any questions, they can call the city
correct.
and ask for you or
Yeah.
ask for Lisa or.
Yeah, and like I say, we're happy to, the state park will sign it, they'll put a sign up says archery program in progress, and that'll be obviously the second weekend of October. It's usually the second Saturday that we start. So it's coming up, and it's coming up fast.
Good, good, good.
Thank you, Ruth Ann.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you.
everything.
All right, good. Thank you so much. Yay, we're done. Thank you for watching.